wanted to welcome everyone to the webinar. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of people jumping in and out. Just a little bit about myself for those of you that don't know me. I'm a real estate agent here in Austin, Texas, and I run real estate teams in 3 cities. I'm in Austin, Texas, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and St. Louis, Missouri. In addition to running a 19-person team, I'm also a real estate investor, and I have been a real estate investor for more than a decade. And I've got a special guest here. This is Heather Shuck. She's our marketing director on our real estate team, and she's also a former businesswoman.
Yes.
I mean, not really former. You're still a businesswoman.
I've just transitioned industries.
Yeah, she's transitioning.
Yeah.
And we're here to talk about money and how to build your wealth before it's too late. And you guys might be asking yourself if there's some kind of ulterior motive for me to be having this webinar, because otherwise would I be giving up my time? Yeah, well, the answer is yes, there is an ulterior motive. And the ulterior motive is we are growing, and we're looking for people to join our Rockstar Real Estate team. And what I thought I would do is I would start to give. So I would give content and information, and I would see who wants to receive. So I love talking about wealth building. I'm really passionate about it, and I'm looking for people who want to build their wealth through real estate. I mean, Jay and I have been on a journey. He's been working with Gary for the last 15 years, and we've learned so much, and I just want to give back. That's really why I get up and go to work every day. So that's my ulterior motive, which is I'm looking for great people to join our real estate team. If you decide that you don't want to join our real estate team, you're still welcome to the webinar. So, but anyway, if you guys are interested,
yeah,
we're not going to kick anyone off. Yeah, we won't know anyway. So, if you're interested, just text a join PPG to the number on your screen, which is 44222, and that's going to be our last, our last sales call, I guess. So, anyway, so here's why we're here. You know, you guys help everyone else grow their wealth through real estate. So why don't you do it for yourself?
Yeah, and so I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts for, where are you at on your wealth building journey? Are you where you want to be? And I mean, we have to wonder, if you're signed up for this webinar, what are you hoping to get out of this? And if you're not where you'd like to be, what's holding you back?
Yeah. So I'd love to see some responses. Tell me why you aren't where you want to be as far as your wealth building, or maybe you're at the beginning of the journey, you don't know where to start. Just go ahead, and I'd love to see some answers. Lack of funds, okay, yeah, that's definitely relative. And we will talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, lack of knowledge, lack of funds. Mm-hmm. And also too, I think, timing is an issue too. I mean, it's always kind of, it's so easy to view it as a someday goal, and when it's just someday, you don't have a sense of urgency that's going to, force you to change your behaviors to accomplish that.
Yeah.
Some of those things we just kind of put off.
Yeah, we do, because there's no urgency to it.
Oh, crashed and burned in 08, back now, ready to reinvest.
Yeah, Randy. Yep, hi, Randy. Yeah, we made a terrible investment in 08. We're actually still recovering from it. We lost about $150,000, and now we carry a note. We ended up selling the property, but we carry about $80,000 of unsecured debt, which is not fun.
Yeah.
Nervous about it, sitting vacant. Yep, that's really true. Misguided priorities. Yeah, that's true. You've got a kid in college, or going to college. Well, one of each. So you're probably working on that. Yeah. It's really what we focus on expands. So we're going to talk a little bit about our journey and how we, went through that. So I've got some good news and bad news for you guys. The bad news first is only 1 in 3 Americans. 1 in 3 Americans has saved absolutely nothing for retirement. It's depressing. And 56% of Americans have only saved less than $10,000. So I can tell you, with healthcare the way it's going, with people living longer and longer, $10,000 isn't going to get you safely through to retirement.
Yeah, and I think also too, with being entrepreneurs like ourselves, it's so easy to not save for retirement. I mean, when you're not in a corporate setting and you don't have that regular paycheck that's coming in, where all the the money's deducted for your 401k automatically, you have to control that. I mean, it's something that's so easy to just put off and neglect.
Yep, it really is.
Yeah.
Well, here's the good news: is that it doesn't no matter where you are in life, you're no more than 5 years away from being the best. And I really believe that to be true. We overestimate what we can do in 1 year, and we severely underestimate what we can do in 5 years. And I'm proof of that. I mean, I went from being a stay-at-home mom making absolutely nothing, no income, to making about $1 million in GCI in just 5 years in real estate.
That is impressive.
Yeah. So, it takes hard work and focus and having your priorities in the right place, and yet it can be done.
Yeah, and I think that, like, we see quotes like that with Gary, and it's, you're like, it's sometimes it's hard to believe. And so, like, hearing your personal story and, being living proof, I mean, it's nice to have that real life example.
Yep.
It can be done.
Yep, it really can be done. And it's really about creating habits. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Because honestly, none of us, I don't think any of us want to be 85 years old and out showing property. I mean, I know that I don't personally. And so what we're striving for, and I'm probably going to work. I like working. I love my job. I love what I do. I love my team. I love my office. And yet, wouldn't it be great if work was a choice? If you had enough passive income coming in, if you were wealthy enough where work was actually a choice. I think that's what we're all shooting for. And so we're going to talk about how to accomplish that.
Freedom.
Today. Yeah, that freedom, for sure. Well, so what does wealthy mean to you guys? Just go ahead and use your chat bars, and those of you that just tuned in.
Your personal definition of wealthy.
Okay, abundance. Yeah, I love that. Oh, 100 million. Oh, I love that. That is wealthy.
Yeah. $1 million net.
Enough passive income that you only work by choice. Okay, yeah. Awesome. Yep. 100 million net. Okay, that's great. I love that.
Yeah. 350,000.
Having work be a choice. Okay.
Yeah. So, and I think it comes down to freedom, being able to choose. If you want to get up that day and go to work, absolutely. Yep. But you don't have to.
Well, and I love it because, a lot of people think this is what wealthy means. They think it's having a big boat or, having a retirement plan that's fully funded or, being able to smoke your money, I guess, is what that guy is
Light
doing.
A cigar with
or having to take a great
bill.
Vacation. But I really believe it's something different. I really believe is wealthy is when your passive income exceeds the money you need to fund your life by design. And I love this quote. It's by my son, who's age 13. And how amazing is it that he gets that at such a young age?
I know. I mean, like, to know that and have that understanding of, of money at 13. I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, like, imagine how far ahead he is.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't know about you guys, your parents. I'm a mom, and this is what I want for my kids.
Absolutely.
I mean, I want them to have that head start, so they already have a healthy relationship with money when they're young. I mean, it's a necessity these days.
And I want to be able to have assets that throw off money, so I don't have to worry about, if I want to take care of my grandchildren, I can, or if I want to take my family on vacations, when they're older and when they have families, I want to be able to do all that. And so that's what I'm looking forward to. So here's a real question. It's one thing to know what wealthy is, but how do you become wealthy?
I think that's why we're all here today, too.
Yeah. Why? How do you become wealthy?
We want the secret. Tell us the secret.
Okay, well, here we go. Oh, it's not that. It's really by acquiring assets. So you really become wealthy when your money works for you instead of you working for your money. So all of us have a job. If we're in real estate, we all have a job, whether we're on a team or we, solo agent or whatever that looks like, but we all have a job. And if you're in real estate, what happens if you're in real estate and you go on vacation?
Yeah.
You're not on a team.
Everything stops.
Everything stops, right? Yeah. So
you're spending your vacation working.
Right, exactly.
What's the point of vacation then?
Right, which is, to me, is really sad.
Right.
Yeah. I always see people on Facebook and they're like, oh, I'm at the pool in Mexico working. And I'm like, that's not good.
No.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we want to start acquiring assets so that your money is actually working for you instead of you working for your money. And we're going to talk about this. It's essentially the path of money. And don't worry, I'm going to chunk this down, but I wanted to give you kind of the big picture here. And we're going to I'm just going to walk you through this. Okay. So really, Heather.
Yes.
Everyone. There's just two kinds of capital. The first one is human capital, which is what we're talking about, which is you work for money. And then you've got capital assets, which is your money works for you. And they both create cash, right? They both create cash flow. Like if you are working in your real estate business and you're doing real estate transactions, that's human capital. Someone's mowing your lawn, they're getting paid, that's human capital. Capital assets are, like I said before, is when your money's actually working for you when you're not necessarily there overseeing it. So if you own a real estate business, you don't have a job inside your real estate business, then your business is creating money for you. And our goal on this webinar is to convince you guys that you need to start acquiring assets because that's how you're going to build your wealth. Yep. All right. So there's just really 4 choices for that cash flow. You can spend it, which I know how to spend money. Probably all you out there know how to spend money. Yeah. You can donate it, which of course is a great thing. And the more money you have, the more you can donate. Right. I think a lot of us have issues around money and we think, ooh, you know, a lot of money is bad or I don't need that money. Well, here's the reality. You know, it was really great when Hurricane Harvey hit, you know, Jay and I were able to make a really large donation to Keller Williams Cares, and we wouldn't have been able to do that if we didn't have the money. I mean, it's as simple as that. Money is good for the good it can do. So donating it is obviously awesome, but first you gotta build it. First, you got to create that cash flow before you can donate it. And then, of course, you can hold it. You can, you know, stuff it under your mattress or put it in the suitcase or whatever, which is just,
wouldn't advise.
That's stupid. And then you can invest it. Right. So that's what we're here to talk about is like, those are your 4 choices on how to spend your money and how are you doing it. Are you prioritizing number 1, spending it all? Are you donating all?
Or maybe even if you're not prioritizing, but that's just the reality.
That's the reality.
I mean, maybe you don't want to be spending it all, but that's just kind of where you're at.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so then really as far as investing, so we're going to just break that investing down. There's just 2 basic investment choices. And you can lend money or you can own stuff, okay? And there's passive lending and owning, and then there's active lending and owning. So that whole bottom row that you guys are looking at, those are all the kind of assets that you can have. And as we go from left to right, the return on those investments tends to increase. Okay, so the more actively you're involved in something, the bigger return you're going to get on it, and the more passive you are, like in terms of lending your money, you're going to get a lower return. So let's just look at that passive lend column. We've got different kinds of money markets. We've got certificates of deposits. We've got bonds, and we've got T-bills. And so I don't know, what's the return on a CD these days? Do you have any idea?
I mean, maybe 1%.
Maybe 1%. Yeah. And so essentially what you're doing is if you get a CD, you're lending a bank your money. That's what you're doing. And then what does the bank do with it?
Well, I mean, they're using it.
Yeah, they're going to lend it out.
They're making more money.
They're going to lend it out at a higher rate. So they're going to be doing more of that active lending and getting a higher rate of return. So bonds are the same way. You know, treasury bills, it's just you're lending it to the government. And it's a pretty low risk.
Right, there's the benefit of the low risk.
Yeah, but you're never going to beat inflation, right? Inflation is what, like 2-3%? Every year. So if you're only getting a 1% return on your money over time, you're actually losing money on it. Right. So that's a very passive kind of low risk, low return investment, but it would be an asset for you. The next one is really passive owning, and there we've got stocks. We've got REITs, which is a real estate investment. It's, you know, a REIT is really like it's like a stock where it's a bunch of real estate all bundled together and it's sold like a mutual fund. It's not like a stock, it's more like a mutual fund. And again, you know, you'll get a better rate of return on that. I mean, what's the historical rate of returns on the stock market, you know?
I mean, it depends on what you invest in, whether it's a blue chip or aggressive. But I mean, say if it's a blue chip stock, 8%.
Yeah, 8%. That's typically, you know, 7, 8%. Yeah, if you happen to buy, you know, Apple stock before the iPhone came out, you've had a better rate of return than that. Yeah, I wish I had more to invest. But that's just really, you know, but also you can't control that. No. Like, so even if you went out and you bought some Apple stock, even if you bought 1,000 iPhones, you're not going to change the price of that stock. But you are going to get a better investment from that. And it is slightly more risk, but over time, you know, we're talking, everything we're talking about today is a get rich slow scheme. I mean, if you guys are here to find out how to become a millionaire in the next 5 days, you're on the wrong infomercial. Okay, and then we've got active lending. So everybody who's out there who's a real estate agent understands what owner financing is, and they understand what hard money lending is. What's a hard money lender interest rate now? You have an idea?
I mean,
it's like 12%.
Yeah, I was gonna say 15, 12,
like in
15.
Austin, it's like 12%, 12, 15%, and probably in some places it's lower or higher, and probably at different markets it's lower or higher depending on what regular lending interest rates are. But that's more risky. You know, we did that recently. We loaned a friend of ours some money. He was starting a business. And so we ended up loaning him $35,000, and that ended up turning into, we had a good rate of return on that, and he ended up keeping it for about 8 months while he was getting his business started, and he gave us $43,000 back.
There you
go. Maybe $8,000 like that. Of course, you got to have the 35,
right?
Which is kind of further down the journey. But then let's look at that fourth column. Okay, guys, look at that fourth column. I mean, what's there? Businesses and real estate. And what do we do?
Right.
What do you guys do? we're in the real estate business, and that is, you know, if you look at the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, you can make up, you know, some businesses out there are making like a 40% profit on a real estate business, which is incredible. And we're going to talk about our journey in our real estate business, but then also, you know, purchasing real estate. And the great thing about real estate is that if you buy a rental property, you know, somebody else pays the mortgage for you over time. So then hopefully all that money you're making with all of your investments, that turns into your financial returns. You just go back and you buy more assets with it. Hopefully that makes it really simple. I love this graphic. And the more I teach it, you guys should go and teach it, you know, in your real estate offices, because people don't understand money.
No, I mean, it's just looking at it, it can be a little bit overwhelming, but once you break it down, it really is this simple. And if you just start, you know, penciling in what you want those percentages to be, I mean, it's a great kind of roadmap.
Yeah, it's awesome. Okay, so again, it's like I was saying, it's a get rich slow scheme. Success is sequential, it's not simultaneous. I love this because I don't know about you guys, but I'm a pretty impatient person. Raise your hand if you're impatient. Yeah, I know you all are. You don't even need to raise your hand. This is time on the task over time, and that's what we're talking about.
Which could be pretty boring, but it's all about staying the course.
Absolutely. And so here's a little bit about our journey. So when Jay and I got married, excuse me. So when Jay and I got married, we got married in 1999. We moved to Austin in 2000, and Jay was freelancing, and I would come home every day because I don't know if you guys know, it doesn't really matter, but my husband's background was in book publishing, and then there were no publishers in Austin, so he was going to become a freelancer. And so he was freelancing for probably about 8 months, and I would come home and he'd be pretty much playing video games. So I said to him, your freelancing days are over.
Does Jay know that you're telling this?
Probably not. I know.
Don't tell Jay. Don't tell Jay.
Such nice things about me when he's on his webinars and I say mean things. It's terrible. But anyway, that's when he ended up getting a job at Keller Williams. And so one of the things that Keller Williams taught him is because at Keller Williams, one of the goals of Keller Williams is to help people build businesses and understand how to grow a business and what a business means. And so every new employee that starts at Keller Williams International has to take a class called reading a balance sheet, learning about a profit and loss statement. And so Jay, when he was there in his first few months at Keller Williams, Mo Anderson was teaching the class, and as luck would have it, not a single person showed up for the class except for Jay. And so he and Mo got to have a one-on-one session on tracking your net worth. Okay, wow. So it turned into a discussion. It turned from a discussion about reading a P&L to a discussion about figuring out your net worth. And so he came home that day all excited, and he said we need to sit down and figure out what our net worth was. And so what we did was we added up all our assets. And so for those of you that don't know, your net worth is everything you own right? All your assets minus everything you owe. Okay, so all your debts. And we had debt at the time. We had some school debt. Jay had a 401k from his old work that he was at, and then we had this tercel we shared.
A lovely tercel.
Yeah. And so all total, our net worth was about $2,300.
And what happened to the tercel?
Well, it actually caught on fire about 3 years later, so it was tragic. But at that time, we had another car by then, so it was fine. Yeah, but what was really striking about that was we weren't young. Okay, we weren't 22. We weren't just, right out of college. I think I was 29 and Jay was 31, and we thought, wow, here we have collectively been working for 20 years, and all of that 40 hours a week, 40 hours a week plus, we always worked in jobs where we had to put in more than 40, and we only had $2,300 to show for it. It was really terrifying, really daunting for us. Yeah. Yeah. And so I would encourage you guys, just keep that in mind. What really is your net worth? And so that set us on a path. And that was really when we started tracking our net worth, was in 2000, but it wasn't until 2005 when we actually set a goal to grow our net worth. Okay, so we've been tracking it for years, and what that looked like was like about every month we would just add up everything we own, so all of our assets, and then subtract everything we owe, so all of our mortgage payments and stuff like that. And in 2005, we set a really big goal for ourselves. So 2005 was when Jay started to work on the Millionaire Real Estate Investor, and we thought, wow, Jay was like, I'm going to be a fraud if I don't actually do something here. And so we decided we were going to become net worth millionaires. And I can tell you guys that at the time,
you thought he was crazy.
I literally thought he was insane. I really did. Those of you that know me, I grew up in a small farming community in northern Minnesota, hardworking. My great-grandmother shoveled her own walk until she was like 98 years old. And all I knew was hard work. And I really thought that you worked really hard your whole life and then you died. That was it. That's all there was. And so this idea of having a net worth of $1 million was crazy to me. And yet, Jay was starting to work at Keller Williams, and his mindset was changing, even though I was still working. I was not working then. I was after my children were born, so I was a stay-at-home mom at that point. So anyway, it took us about 7 years to get to that net worth million, and then you can see we've been on kind of a hockey stick growth curve since then.
So evidently the book works.
Yeah, right? No, well, it's time on the task over time.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to go back to that slide, because when Jay and I were figuring this out for this webinar, I said, honey, what's making it hockey stick like that? And he's like, that's just the compounding of like 15 years of work.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of sacrifice here. We felt poor.
Yeah.
We felt really poor for many, many years because we were putting all of our extra money into buying investment properties and creating assets and things like that.
And you were talking about earlier, before we started, about not all those investment properties turned out great.
No, absolutely not.
I mean, so that was hardships, and you still have that hockey stick.
And I actually teach this class, a bigger version of this class, where I kind of go through all of our mistakes and everything that we made. We just don't have time on this webinar to talk about that. But I wanted to share our big goals that we created in 2005. So we want to have a net worth of $1 million. We wanted to own 10 properties, and we wanted to have $75,000 in passive income, which was income that we didn't work for. And I can tell you that, it took us 7 years to get to that net worth goal. We actually only own 9 properties now, but our passive income way exceeds that.
Wow.
And so we have a goal to buy that 10th one next year. And it's really those big goals that are going to pull you through everything.
Yeah. I mean, that's impressive, though. I mean, 7 years to accomplish that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's complete focus.
Yeah.
Also, a rapidly increasing real estate market in Austin didn't hurt.
No.
So
probably not.
Yeah. And I love this quote. So in addition to the goals that we created, we knew we had to create some habits in order to help us become wealthy, because you create the future by creating yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, and so we knew that something about us had to change. And so what we're going to spend the majority of our time talking about on this webinar is really about the habits that we put into place. So I love this quote. People do not decide their futures, they decide their habits, and their habits decide their futures.
It's just so true. It's just, we don't think of it that way, but
no, and
it's very profound.
And habits can be good or bad.
Right.
There's lots of bad habits out there that's gonna decide somebody's future as well.
My Starbucks habit.
Yeah, right. Okay, so the first wealth building habit that we're going to talk about today is to live on less than you make. So here's a graph which shows what the typical American spends their money on. And when I saw this, I thought it was fascinating because look at what's about 50% of our budgets.
Housing and transportation.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, I mean, you could be the kind of person who says, you know what, I'm going to cut out my Starbucks, I'm going to cut out a cocktail here and there. And yet, really, the easiest way to live on less than you make.
It's going to affect, what, 3%?
Right.
I mean,
yeah, exactly. And unless you're, unless you have some kind of problem, if you're, if you buy 10 pairs of shoes a month, then obviously that apparel and services probably applies to you. But really, it's not, and you're not going to have any fun.
It's not going to make a substantial difference.
No, and you're going to be miserable, right?
Right.
And so, a great way to approach that is to really just think about how can I cut my housing and how can I cut my transportation.
So how do you determine how much to save? I mean, is there a set amount?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you asked that, Heather. So what I would do is I would set aside, because we're all realtors, we need to set 25% or more of our income away for taxes. And then really for us, it's really 20% for investing. I mean, we're aggressive. If you can't do 20%. And then you got to base your working budget on the remaining 55%. But I just want to share a story with you guys because I just want to go back to that slide. So I have an agent on my real estate team, and she's young. She's like 26 or 27 years old, and she was living in the best part of Austin, downtown, in a really fun, fancy building. It was in a furnished apartment. She was living alone. And she's paying about $1,700 a month in rent. And I know there are some of you like in California that are like, oh, that's so cheap.
Yeah.
But for Austin, that's above the average. And especially, there's no need to live alone and spend all that money. So she's really trying to find a way to cut expenses. And so I suggested to her, hey, why don't you move? And so what she did is she moved into a shared apartment in a nice part of town, not the best one,
right?
Not the absolute best, most fun place. And she greatly reduced her living expenses from $1,700 to $600 a month. So right there, she had $1,100 a month to work.
That is huge.
Yeah, and so somebody was saying, I don't have the money to come up with a down payment on an investment property. Well, in Austin, you save $1,100 a month for a year, and you've got a lot of money. You have the ability to buy a house with that.
And it's not like she was just completely sacrificing. I mean, she's still living in a nice area.
Yeah.
You're just kind of ensuring your future.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just not, it's just making some kind of sacrifice. Also, she probably saved money by not being downtown, honestly. Okay, so our second wealth building habit is really to pay your investment fund first. And let me explain what I mean by that. Is that when Jay and I were on a creating this investment fund, we knew that if the money was in our bank account, then we would just spend it. Right. I mean, that's how every single person in America is. And not every single person, but a lot of people. And so what we did is we created a separate bank account. And the separate bank account, we put $1,500 a month in that separate bank account. And it wasn't easy for us to transfer the money. I can't remember if it was with a different bank even. So
I was going to say, but I mean, like nowadays with technology, it's so easy. There's so many apps that just link all your bank accounts. You don't even need to have like a direct deposit. Yeah. I mean, there's so many different ways where you can just have that money go without you even knowing.
Oh yeah, that's true. And yet, you probably need to get a different bank. So at least it's one more step. Yeah.
Lose the password so you can't log into the account.
Well, and there are apps that will let you do that too. That will actually, you can set it up so it says, you can't log into this particular website, so you can do that too. And so we did $1,500 a month, and you know, did we have to pull money out of it? Yeah. Like if we went home for Christmas, yeah, we had to do that, and yet it was always a choice. So our third wealth building habit that was probably, I would say, the most impactful was really focusing on our net worth and not our income.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of real estate agents, and actually for almost everyone in the country, we focus on our income.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a doctor. I make this much money. I'm a lawyer. I make this much money. But really, at the end of the day, all those people on the, you know, Fortune 500 richest people in America, they're not making income. They have assets that are worth a certain amount.
Yeah.
Right? That's really that's the main metric. And so just to kind of, I know I explained this before, but for some people it's a new concept, so I just want to go over it again. Your net worth is really everything you own. Okay, so all of your assets, which is your 401k, your car, your house, anything you have in your checking or savings account. I wouldn't include anything like furniture unless you've got like maybe a piece of art or something like that that's going to go up in value, but mainly just your car and your house.
Yeah.
And then subtracting everything you owe, so minus all your debts. So
student loans.
Right, exactly.
Debt, yeah.
And this is how you calculate it. So yeah, all your cash, stocks, life insurance, 401k, real estate, et cetera, and then everything you owe, your credit card, medical bills, mortgage balance. When we started tracking our net worth, we always did it through Excel. And since then, we've moved to Mint. So I'm not a Mint salesperson, but it is a really handy app. It's free.
Yeah. There's a lot of them out there. I mean, whichever one is more comfortable for you. I know Mint is one of the more popular ones.
Yeah. And so, yeah, well, what's great about that is you can be at the supermarket and just be like, oh, what's my net worth? Oh, great. Doing great today. And this habit was really impactful because whenever you go, if you know that you're looking at your net worth every single month, you do not want your net worth to go down. You literally don't. And so
it becomes kind of like a game.
It's like
you challenge yourself.
Yeah, it's like a game. I know all you out there are competitive because
yes.
you're all in real estate. And so for us, we did not want to see our net worth go down. So every single purchase we made, oh, we're going to buy a new sofa. Well, you know what? Yeah. That's going to be $2,000.
When you look and see how it's going to set you back on a big long-term goal, it's like, do we want the sofa or do we want to be able to buy that investment property?
That's right. That's right. Exactly. And so we just didn't buy it. We had a hand-me-down couch for many years, and we dumped all of our money into real estate.
Well, in real estate, didn't you say you get a lot of your furniture from like listings, buying it from people?
Well, yeah, that was before I was in real estate. Not a lot, occasionally.
She has tricks.
Yeah. I mean, I pay for it. But yeah, you don't have to buy new furniture. You don't have to have the best car. You know, I know there's a lot of pressure when we're in real estate to drive a BMW, but you know, I drive a Volkswagen, and Jay drives a 9-year-old car, basically.
And you own 9 investment properties.
Yeah, we own 9 investment properties.
Right. So which one are your
priorities?
Right.
I can actually remember when we rented out our first house, because that was our first investment property. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. They pulled the renters who were going to be living in our rental property. They pulled up in a BMW, and they made more money than we did.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, they're renting our house.
Yeah. So you're doing something right.
Yeah. Well, I want you guys to look at this chart. I mean, this is the median net worth of a homeowner. Hasn't statistically changed too much in the last 16 years. In 2013, which is the last year the Federal Reserve data is available, was $195,000 for a homeowner and about $5,000 net worth for a renter, which is a huge difference.
Yeah. I think the latest numbers that just came out was like 44. The homeowner is 44 times the amount of net worth of a renter.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, it's really insane. And I mean, do you think that having $195,000 in equity when you're older could help you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I know you teach this class all over the country, and it's the lot longer class, and when you talk with agents, and a lot of them admit they don't own a house.
Yep.
I mean, what's the feedback? Why do people not
own
a home? Especially if we're in the business of selling homes.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it has to do with getting started. It really does. And we have a lot of stuff in our head about, oh, we're a 1099 employee and, oh, we're going to need 25% down. And the fact of the matter is there's lots of ways to creatively finance properties. Our first 2 rental properties were our first 2 homes. And a lot of the real estate we bought at the beginning was with a partner. So they would put the money down, and we would help with the sweat equity. Yeah, so that's real common. And we're not going to go into it too much because, again, we just don't have enough time. But I just want you guys to get that limiting belief out of your head about having to have so much money to put down, because it's just really not true. If you find a good deal, there's somebody out there, trust me, who's going to want to go in on it.
And especially if we're in the business of, our job is to make deals happen. We do it all the time for our clients. It's like, why aren't you doing that for yourself?
Exactly.
If you don't have the money to put the down payment in, you can find a partner. Yeah. It's just getting, I think, and that's where a lot of people struggle is, getting that roadmap and then having that end goal and knowing the steps to take. And then you just have that carrot right in front of you. Like, oh, so I need to find one person willing to partner with me for $5,000, $10,000. And then it becomes a lot more real.
Yep, a lot more real. Yep. Well, and if you don't have the money, you can also get a side hustle. And this isn't quite as relevant for you guys because you're in real estate. So real estate is a way to just make more money. I mean, you all have the opportunity to make as much money as you want in real estate. And yet, if you're not in real estate, you could get a side hustle. And that's one of the things that Jay and I did. I was working for the state, and then I was a stay-at-home mom, but I always made money on the side. Jay would edit books on the side, and he'd spend like 3 or 4 months editing a book at night while our kids were sleeping, and he'd make $10,000. Or I would do things for, actually I did a lot of stuff for, I was a writer for Outfront, and I didn't make a lot of money, but I make an extra $500, extra $1,000 here and there.
Yeah.
And, there's just, we live in a world where it's unprecedentedly easy to make money on the side.
Yeah, I mean, you can do so much stuff virtually. Yeah. I mean, even in real estate, I mean, you could, like you were talking about writing, we know real estate like the back of our hand. You can write about that. You can help other agents in your office as as a transaction coordinator, Airbnb management.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, house sitting, staging consults.
Yeah.
It's just, being open to it and being realistic about how much free time you have.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's, we actually had a gal on my team who, she had some debt that she needed to pay off, and our operations director at the time, Rosalind, who's on the call, she suggested that she just get a side hustle, which was to come and sit at the front desk at Keller Williams on the weekends. And she wasn't an agent, so it wasn't like she was working weekends, and that allowed her to help pay her debt off.
Yeah.
And it wasn't forever. Yeah. But it's like, what are you doing all weekend?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. You want to spend time with your family, of course, and yet that helped our family tremendously.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 5 is a big one. It's learning the rules of money. And so I don't know about you guys, but nobody ever taught me the rules of money. I used to think that money was bad.
Yeah.
I used to think that money was evil.
The way I brought it too. Yeah.
And I used to think that rich people were bad.
Yeah.
Somehow. They weren't good people. Which is just so interesting to me now that I'm on the other side.
You're one of those bad people.
I'm a bad person. Yeah. Well, what's fascinating is that money is good for the good that it can do.
Right.
And there's so many wealthy people out there who are doing great things with their money. And I think about Bill and Melinda Gates, who are single-handedly stopping AIDS in Africa. I mean, you can't do that if you have no money. You just can't. You got to have money and influence and resources. And you guys all have the ability to be like that. You do. But you got to learn the rules of money, because nobody's going to teach it to you. You didn't learn it in high school. You didn't learn it from your parents, or if you did, you're lucky. And so this is kind of, if you guys want, I would just take a picture of this. And this is a primer. We got the Millionaire Real Estate Investor. Obviously, I'm biased. My husband's a co-author. Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is a mindset book for you to think about getting into that entrepreneurial mode. 4-Hour Work Week talks a lot about leverage and technology. 7 Strategies for Wealth and Happiness. I mean, that's a classic with Jim Rohn. He talks about surrounding yourself with the right people. Think and Grow Rich, also a mindset book by Napoleon Hill. It's really old. It's like 100 years old, and it's really about
held the test of time.
Yeah, it's really held the test of time, and it's a little bit dense, but it's not hard. None of these are hard reads. And then, you got podcasts. My favorite real estate investing podcast is Bigger Pockets. And
have you been a guest on Bigger Pockets?
No, Jay was though.
Jay was? Okay.
Yeah, that's actually how we recruited one of our agents.
Oh, really?
He heard Jay on Bigger Pockets. Yeah, and he was like, I want to join your team.
Well, maybe they'll call you in now.
Yeah, maybe. Bigger Pockets, hello. Joshua Dworkin, I'm talking about you. But yeah, I mean, you guys are in your car all the time. What are you doing? You're driving around. What are you listening to? You're listening to music. Great, fine. You're listening to talk radio. It's just dumping garbage into your head. It's all negativity. Why don't you listen to something that's going to help you grow your wealth? Why don't you learn how to become a great real estate investor? Because what you focus on expands. Yeah. So while you're driving around, Bigger Pockets, or there's lots of other investment podcasts out there too. And that's just it's super easy. All right, so our sixth wealth building habit is really to think big goals. And I told you guys about our big goals that we set, which was to become a net worth millionaire, $75,000 in passive income, and to own 10 properties. And I can tell you that when you have giant goals like that, and our goals have increased. I mean, our goals are crazy big now. Now we have goals like create 10 millionaires. I mean, think about that. If I'm creating 10 millionaires, theoretically, I'm getting wealthier too.
Right, absolutely.
Right? Yeah. And so it's those big goals that are going to pull you through everything.
Yeah,
it's going to pull you through the failures. Effect.
I mean,
it's going to pull you through the failures.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and really there's only so far you can go with really small plans. Okay, so I know.
Before we jump into that, how are we doing with the chat?
Yeah.
Looks like we've got some more. If there's anything that you guys have questions about, feel free to jump in there with that.
Oh yeah, Claire's like, I want to be one. Well, it's like I'm famous.
Where can you go to get for hard money lending as a single renter developer?
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, great. So,
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, Claire, that'd be awesome. I want you to be one of my millionaires. Okay.
I'm going to be one.
So now, what do they say? A journey of 1,000,000 miles starts with the first step.
Right.
So that's where we're going to start, which is really where to begin. So those of you that don't own a home, or you're just looking for your first real estate investment, if we had to do it all over again, this is what I would do. I would buy a duplex, I'd rent out one side, and I'd live in the other with a roommate. Okay, let me show you how that unfolds. So let's say you buy a duplex for $225,000, and there are probably those of you that are listening in areas where you can't buy something for $225,000. And yet, I gave this speech in Concord, Massachusetts, I guess a couple of weeks ago, where the average sales price is over $1 million, and there were people in that room who were telling me, yeah, you can buy cash flow duplexes, maybe not right in Concord, but in an area close enough where it made sense. Additionally, you can buy a real estate in a different place. We have a real estate team in St. Louis, and there are cash flow deals like falling all over the place there. An agent on our team, Warren just bought a property for $7,000. He put $8,000.
$7,000. You heard that right. $7,000.
And trust me, we cannot find these deals.
No. We still don't know how Warren did it.
I know, really. I know. This guy's 26 years old, guys. He put $8,000 into it, and he gets $550 a month in rent. Gosh, that's unbelievable. So, I mean, if you're looking for great deals and you're not in a market that supports it, definitely contact me, and we'll put you in touch with somebody in St. Louis, because there's great deals all over the place.
And once again, it goes back to what we're talking about all the time. It's being open to it and having the roadmap. Mm-hmm. And you can figure out the roadmap. It doesn't have to be necessarily for, say we're on Austin. Maybe that doesn't work in Austin, but you can reach out just like Warren did and found a property in St. Louis.
Totally.
There's, what is it? Where there's a will, there's a way?
There's a will, there's a way, yeah. But the fact of the matter is there's probably a deal in your town. And so this is actually something I pulled off from MLS in Austin.
Okay.
So, and bear in mind, this is going to be a house that you're going to be buying to live in, which is how you can put 3.5% down. So let's say you bought a house for a duplex for $225,000, which is about $7,875. You're probably going to have a mortgage payment with that of about $1,600. And let's say you can rent one side, this is an actual duplex that I found in Austin. Is it in the best neighborhood in Austin? No, but you're still getting renters who are paying $1,250 in rent.
Yeah.
So you rent one side for $1,250, and then you have a roommate, right? You have a roommate, and they're paying you $600. So let's just add that rent up. What is that rent?
Well, I mean, you've got, yeah.
$1,850, right? Yeah. So your monthly cash flow is going to be $250. That means you're living for free.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, I think the natural inclination is you see that $250 and you're like, oh, $250, that's not very much. But you're living on free and you're getting paid $250 to live for free.
That's right. Exactly. And then when you move out, right, theoretically you're going to be renting the other side for $1,250.
Yeah.
And you're going to be making $900 a month. That's incredible.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a no-brainer. And then I'd love to share with you what we did with our first home. I know you guys are looking at that picture and you're thinking, wow, she's glamorous. This is an actual picture from the Austin MLS
close
of
to
our
Halloween.
house. I know. It actually is a pretty cute house. It just is a terrible MLS photo.
I was going to say, maybe that picture is not very flattering because it does
flattering.
not look like a
look
cute
at the
house.
angle, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It looks, and it's actually, you know, at the time it wasn't even in a bad neighborhood.
Your humble beginning.
That's right. But this is our first home, and I want you guys to understand that this is a get rich slow scheme. Okay, and I have the wisdom of age to show you. Okay, so we put $6,125 down on this house. We actually thought we overpaid for the house. It was right. We bought it in 2001, which in Austin, the tech bubble was just about to burst, and so there was a lot of pressure on home prices in Austin. And then we lived in it for 3 years, and after 3 years, we decided, in order to save our marriage, we needed a second bathroom. No, actually, I mean, that is true. we were about to have our first child.
Okay.
And so that
definitely changes things.
Yeah, that little 2-bedroom, 1 bath was not going to cut it. And so we lived in there for 3 years. Since then, we've had tenants in there. It's basically been, there's hardly been any vacancy in the rent. I mean, almost none. They've been paying the mortgage for 13 years. Do you guys understand this? Somebody else makes the mortgage payments for you. You may not be making any cash flow, because to be really honest with you, this house has never cash flowed great for us. Even after 16 years, it just hasn't. And a lot of people probably would have gotten rid of it, but I'm like, it's an asset. And so today we owe about $150,000. So of that 75, those tenants have paid most of that down. And thanks to the rapidly increasing price of homes in Austin, it's worth $525,000. Wow. So do you guys get this? We turned $6,215 into $410,000 in 16 years.
I mean, that's impressive.
I'm just going to let that sink in.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember what the average net worth of a homeowner is? What was that about?
195.
Yeah, 195. Yeah. Obviously, not everybody's in a market like this. I mean, I'm going to tell you that I understand that, and you know, there are lots of you out there who are like, well, that's not going to happen in my market. Yes, and that's true. But let's just say, what if the home price never went up? Because there are markets like that. There are markets where literally home prices are not going to go up. You're going to sell it in 30 years, and the house is going to be exactly the same. But what is key is that you've got tenants who are paying down the mortgage, not for 13 years, they're going to be paying it off for 27 years, right? They're going to pay the mortgage, pay the mortgage, pay the mortgage. And so then you've turned $6,000 into $175,000.
Right. Which is still phenomenal. I mean,
still astounding.
Yeah.
Right? And you've got an asset that once you've paid it off, you know, you're cash flowing that rent. Right now I get $2,000 in rent for that baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what would 2,000, think about your parents. Okay, I think about my parents. They didn't save for retirement, right? They live on a fixed income. And what would $2,000 a month do to somebody who's retired?
Yeah.
That's a trip every month.
Right.
Right?
Or unfortunately, medical bills. I mean,
or,
you know,
yeah,
we like
or
to be
bills.
positive and assume that we're going to be in perfect health,
I mean,
and there's not going to be any, you know, catastrophic event, hurricane, you know, fire.
Or you could put it on a 15-year note if you have kids. I tell this to my clients, hey, let me show you how to buy pay for college 20 cents on the dollar. Yeah, and they look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, listen, you put 20% down on a home, you put it on a 15-year note, and guess what? Your tenants pay that off in 15 years, and they've paid the 80%. You could sell it, and your kids have a college fund that 80% of it has been paid for by somebody else. So again, I think we kind of get fixated on the cash flow.
Yes.
Right? Because we're fixated on income in this country, but really it's the asset that's important, especially if you know it's a get-rich-slow scheme.
Yeah.
Yep. So anyway, okay, so we got a bonus habit for you guys because you guys are special. Yeah, you want to surround yourself with amazing people, and that's one of the thing that Jay and I have been super purposeful with. Our team is filled with incredible people. No one succeeds alone. Obviously, we've had Gary Keller in our life and all the other amazing people at Keller Williams, and that's allowed us to really think bigger. And yet, there are lots of people who started at the same time that Jay did at Keller Williams International who are not where we are. They're just not, because they never took action.
No, but it's so critical, though, to surround yourself with the colleagues and the people that are going to ask you. I mean, and I'm not talking about just the, kind of the pat on the back, but the ones that are going to ask you the hard questions and they're going to hold you accountable. And, when you, do make that crazy purchase, they're like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, I thought this was your goal. We talked about this. How is this going to help you towards your goal, or is this going to prevent you from achieving it?
Well, you have people who are like, yeah, you should buy that Louis Vuitton bag. Or people who are like, you know what? Why don't you take that $2,000 and put it towards your house that you've been wanting to buy?
And I mean, and I know, just like for me personally, when I started, I had all these goals, and but they were someday goals. It was something that I wanted to accomplish in the future, and I didn't really have that hard plan or strategy. And I mean, within just being in this environment between our, the one-on-one coaching we have every single week, the team meetings, our book club, the annual retreat. I mean,
this is the plug for the team, by the way.
But I mean, honestly, it's, within 6 months. So, when I started, my goal was I wanted to buy 3 properties within 5 years.
Yep.
So within 6 months, I already had my first home purchase, and I'm on track to purchase 2 more. I mean, I never probably would have made that a reality. It was always going to be something that was kind of like out there, that one day this is what I want to accomplish. And now, I mean, every week, it's like, Heather, where are you at on that goal?
Let's be a millionaire. Yeah. Well, and so you guys, this is the reality of wealth building. I mean, that's your plan on the top, and the reality is it's full of ups and downs, but it's a journey. It's not about, well, it is sort of about the destination, but it's going to be filled with trials and tribulations, which is just part of it. And so you have to really feel like you're really going to be up to it.
And I think we can all appreciate that graphic, because we have all been.
Totally. And I love this quote by Warren Buffett, which is, successful investing takes time, discipline, and patience. Oops, sorry about that big space there. I don't know where that came from. No matter how great the talent or effort, some things just take time. You can't produce a baby in 1 month by getting 9 women pregnant.
Love Warren.
Oh, Warren. Yeah, and it's just really true. It's really time on the task over time.
Right.
So hopefully you guys got some value out of today, which is our 6 wealth building habits, which is live on less than you make, pay your investment fund first, focus on net worth, not income, get a side hustle, learn the rules of money, and really think big goals. Again, for more information about our real estate team, text Join PPG to 44222. And we do actually have a few minutes for questions, and we've got Heather here manning the chat box.
Yeah.
So if you got a question, we're here to help.
We want to hear the ahas. Hopefully there was some mindset shifts, kind of something that's eye-opening. Mark me down.
Oh, hi, Lori. How are you? Long time no see. Mark me down. Yeah, Claire.
There's a question about some of the data. We're going to follow up after the webinar. You'll get a copy of this replay. So if there was anything that we were talking about that you didn't miss, you'll be able to, watch it again.
Okay. Oh yeah, ditch Bobby Bones for wealth building. Yeah, that's really true. Side hustle habit. Oh yeah, India, you're such a side hustler anyway. Actually, Ted, that's a really good question, and I think Diana saw that I was doing this wealth building webinar, and she's approached me about that. about Matt's coaching or KW coaching for MREI, because I think it's really important. You know, it's just that it's the one thing we never talk about. We really don't talk about it enough as realtors. And we all know realtors who are, they can't leave their business because they can't afford it. And it's a tragedy to think about working year after year after year for somebody else, and then there's nothing.
And, you know, being so successful, but still not being able to step away from your business, it's like really it quite, you know, makes you, you know, second guess. I mean, what does success mean?
We all work so hard. We really do. Okay, let's see.
Focus on net worth and not income.
Okay, what are your current goals? Okay, Austin's got a great question. What are your current goals? Do you set net worth and passive income goals? Yeah, so we actually do have new net worth goals. Our new net worth goal is 21 million. And I can tell you that makes you stretch. You're like, oh, well, I need to add like $5 million to my net worth this year. And that means creating a lot of businesses. And so that's why I'm, you know, hiring people like Heather, and she and I are talking about starting a business together, because, you know, that's the only way I'm going to do it, is to start more businesses. And our passive income goal, it's $1.5 million a year in passive income. So great question. And that's, you know, had we started out that way, I mean, in my mind, that $1 million net worth goal was insane. And so we've just gone gradually from that. As our minds expanded, we've grown from that. So if you can't even imagine yourself at $1 million, start small. And as you create habits and you start changing, your mindset's going to change too.
Yeah. So, would you purchase if the rent doesn't cover all the expenses, insurance, taxes, etc.?
Great question. So I would say the main thing that you need to consider when buying an investment property is whether there's cash flow. Even if it's a little bit, even if it's $50 a month. If you're buying a rental property and it doesn't cash flow, then you're in trouble. So I probably wouldn't. You might have to put more money down. So we bought our last investment property. We had to put 30% down because it's Austin, and to make it cash flow. And cash flow is like, I think $150 a month. And we also have the resources to pay for it if a roof breaks or something like that. But no, I probably wouldn't do
that. Specific about rental investment in Memphis.
You think real estate investment? Oh, yeah. Hey, Dave. Oh, my gosh. Great to hear from you. No, I think real estate investing in Memphis is a great idea because there's a lot of cash flow there. It's just like, it's a market like St. Louis, and you're not going to necessarily have the equity appreciation, but you can create enough cash flow to buy other properties. So you can create a huge portfolio that way.
Did you use conventional or private financing or all cash to get started?
Well, our first rental property was our first home. So the question is what kind of financing do we use? And remember, you know, I have a husband who has W-2 income. So if you are a real estate agent, you don't have that, then you're going to have to be more creative than we were. But we bought quite a few properties that were that we lived in. We just bought it with conventional financing, but we only put $6,000 down, and actually we borrowed some of that money because we knew we wanted to start growing our net worth. And you guys counsel your clients on this, buying your first home all the time.
Yeah. And I will say, I think too with lending, and I mean, it seems like they're always coming up with some new thing for loans and like how to qualify. Yeah. And I mean, I think it's just really comes down to being resourceful and asking questions and kind of, you know, finding, you know, vendors and loan, you know, lenders that are going to be willing to get a little creative with you.
Or let me give you an example. We bought a rental property in 2006. I actually bought it off Craigslist. And we had a friend in New York City who had $25,000. His wife had been doing a side hustle, so they had some extra money, and it was in the bank account. They knew they'd never be able to buy anything in New York City for $25,000 because it's a crazy market. And so they said, why don't we invest in Austin? And so we bought this little house, and in my mind, and I knew that, he told me that because I've been talking to people, right? Hey, do you have money? Do you have money? Do you have money? Do you want to invest? Because most people don't want to invest. They're scared. So if you approach them and you say to them, hey, I got a deal, you want to invest your money, and yeah, you got to create an LLC, you have to figure out how to do all that, and it's not hard. And so we bought this little rental property for $135,000 off Craigslist, and we didn't put a dime in. They contributed all the down payment and everything, and then we just did sweat equity. So until we were 50-50 partners. So I would rent the property, I would go and, you know, show the tenants, you know, I would paint the property. And so finally we got to be 50-50 partners. And it's been 11 years now. And here's the thing, is that couple in New York, they still never been able to buy a property.
Wow.
And so that investment for them has been huge, because now they have an asset that they can own, and it's going to cash flow a lot someday.
Yeah.
And so it's.
Well, that was pretty innovative of them. I mean,
yeah. Well, it wasn't them. It was me.
Well, yeah.
It was me reaching out to them.
It was pretty smart of them to listen to you.
Well, yeah.
So if Wendy asks you to invest, just say yes.
Yeah.
Just say yes. Are you focusing on certain properties or areas heading into the shift?
Oh, hey, Lucy. Great question. So I think the best thing that we can do is we all know a shift is coming. We're feeling a little bit in Austin, which means there are going to be deals to be had, and you just need to start stockpiling cash.
Yeah. Because there's always going to be opportunities. I mean, you know, whether the market
There's
is high or low. There's
opportunities in every market. Okay, it's all in our head if we don't think there's an opportunity. The last investment property we bought about a year ago. I went on a for sale by owner appointment. I paid market value for it, but it checked off all the boxes on my criteria, and we were able to make a cash flow with 30% down. So, you know, but here's the thing: start with your own home.
Yeah.
Okay? If you're in real estate, you don't have your own home, get started. You know, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Second best time is today. So,
yeah. And I think that's one of the things that's so interesting about your story is, you know, we've kind of tapped into it a little bit, but I mean, like, throughout your career with investing, you've done so many different things. You've done the partners thing. You know, have bought it outright with conventional financing. You've, you know, figured out deals. You've partnered with people in other cities. I mean, you know, other states.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but it all goes back to, you know, kind of that basic concept of where there's a will, there's a way.
That's
if you're
right.
open to it, if you have that roadmap, if this is your you know, your thinking and your mindset, you're going to find a way to accomplish it. If you searching up Craigslist ads or, you know, hitting up friends and family.
Yeah, and you guys work with people all the time. I mean,
right.
You know who they are. You work with somebody who you just know has money, and it's, you know, you might even have a family member who's got $65,000 squirreled away in their, you know, in their checking account, just sitting there. And that's an opportunity. That's an opportunity to help them and help you. So,
yeah.
Well, anyway, we're at 4 o'clock. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and hopefully we'll see you for the next one.
Yes, so great seeing everyone, and we'll be sending out the replay link.
Okay, bye guys.
Bye.